Commander Abigail Winters stood at the window of the diplomatic vessel, watching the stars. The massive space station where the galactic summit would take place loomed ahead, its ring-shaped structure glittering with lights from 1,000 different worlds. "Nervous?" Admiral John Mercer asked, stepping beside her. His weathered face showed the strain of recent weeks. "Not nervous," Abigail replied, "just aware of what's at stake." The hegemony had been pushing into human space for months now. Small incursions at first, then bolder moves, testing Earth's responses. Today, humanity would issue its first formal warning to the coalition of alien species that controlled most of the galaxy. "They won't listen," Mercer said, his voice low. "These species have been the top dogs for thousands of years. They see us as children." Abigail smiled thinly. "Then they should know better than to take a child's toys." The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Director Elijah Ross met them at the airlock, datapad in hand. His normally calm face looked troubled. "Latest intelligence," he said, passing the pad to Abigail. "The Hegemony Council met 3 days ago in closed session. We don't know what they decided, but their ships are moving." Abigail scanned the report. "So they've already made up their minds." "Probably," Ross admitted. "But we still need to try the diplomatic route. The other independent worlds are watching." The 3 humans walked down the curved hallway toward the summit chamber. Alien delegates from 24 species moved around. Them, some humanoid, others wildly different. A group of Tyrellians with their gray skin and 4 arms gave the humans a wide berth. A pair of Vox floating gas bags with tentacles changed color to a deep purple when the humans passed. "They're afraid of us," Mercer noted quietly. "Fear leads to bad decisions," Abigail replied. The summit chamber was circular, with seats arranged by galactic sector. The human delegation took their assigned places, far from the center where the 7 hegemony high counselors sat on elevated platforms. The message was clear: humanity was peripheral, an afterthought. Abigail felt a tap on her wrist communicator. "A message from Earth Command. Speak clearly. Stand firm." The session began with the usual formalities. Species after species presented reports, asked questions, made diplomatic noise. Finally, the moderator, a tall Cephian with translucent skin, called on Earth. Abigail walked to the central podium. The chamber fell silent. Many delegates had never seen a human in person before. "Esteemed representatives," she began, her voice calm and measured. "Earth comes before this assembly with respect for its ancient traditions and the diversity of life it represents." She paused, making eye contact with the lead hegemony counselor, a reptilian draconian. "However, we must address the increasing hegemony military presence in sectors G17 through G24, areas recognized as neutral or human space in previous accords." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The draconian scales rippled slightly, a sign of irritation. The independent worlds of Earth and her colonies seek peaceful relations with all species. "We have shared our medical advances, our art, our philosophy. We have traded fairly and respected boundaries." Abigail's voice became slightly firmer. "Let me be clear. Earth desires peace, but we will defend what is ours. The recent movement of hegemony battle groups threatens that peace. We formally request their withdrawal within 30 standard days." The chamber erupted in whispers. A direct request with a deadline was uncommon in galactic politics, where vague statements and endless negotiations were the norm. The draconian counselor rose, his 7-foot frame towering over his colleagues. "The hegemony acknowledges Earth's concerns," he said, his translator giving his words a silky quality. "But the movements of our ships are for security purposes only. Perhaps the humans, being new to the galactic stage, misunderstand normal patrol patterns." His meaning was clear. "Sit down, children. The adults are talking." "We do not misunderstand, Counselor," Abigail replied evenly. "Earth has warned the galaxy politely. We hope this warning is sufficient." As she returned to her seat, Abigail caught Mercer's eye. He nodded slightly. They both knew what the hegemony couldn't possibly understand. Humans had been preparing for this moment for decades. If diplomacy failed, Earth was ready. None of the aliens in the chamber realized it yet, but the species they dismissed as primitive upstarts had teeth and would not hesitate to bite if pushed too far. Captain Lisa Rodriguez knew something was wrong even before the alarm sounded. 20 years in space had given her a sixth sense for danger. She was studying reports in her office on Horizon Station when she felt it. A slight change in the station's normal vibration pattern. "Status report," she said, tapping her comlink. "All systems normal, Captain," replied the duty officer. Lisa frowned. She trusted her instincts more than computer readouts. "Run a long-range scan. Full spectrum." 3 minutes later, the alarms blared. 6 hegemony warships had appeared at the edge of the system, moving fast toward the station. They hadn't used the regular jump points. Somehow they had slipped past Earth's early warning network. "Battle stations," Lisa ordered, rushing to the command center. "And get Dr. Walsh up here now." The command center buzzed with controlled activity as crew members prepared for what was coming. Lieutenant Samuel Page, the youngest officer on the tactical team, was already running defense simulations. "Captain, they're not responding to hails," reported the communications officer. "Keep trying," Lisa said, "and prepare to activate the shield prototype." Dr. Kevin Walsh arrived, slightly out of breath. The xenobiologist had been studying hegemony communication patterns for years. "They're not here to talk," he said, looking at the approaching ships on the main screen. "That's a standard hegemony attack formation, but it's small, just a warning party." Lisa nodded. "They think we'll fold at the first sign of force." The first shots came moments later. Energy beams struck the outer hull of the station, shaking the entire structure. "Shields holding at 92%, Lieutenant Page reported. "They seem surprised." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The experimental shield technology was working better than expected. The hegemony didn't know about this advancement, one of many Earth had kept secret. "Return fire," she ordered. "Targeted strikes only, and prepare the data package for transmission to Earth Command." Horizon Station wasn't built for combat, but it wasn't defenseless either. Earth had quietly armed all its outposts while maintaining a peaceful appearance. The station's weapons found their marks, damaging 2 of the smaller hegemony vessels. "They're adjusting their attack pattern," Lieutenant Page said, concentrating fire on Section 4. The station shook more violently as the aliens focused their assault. "Shields at 63%, reported the systems officer. "We can't take this level of fire for long." Lisa made a quick decision. "Dr. Walsh, are you getting good readings on their weapons and tactics?" The scientist nodded, working frantically at a data station. "Everything is being recorded and analyzed." "Lieutenant Page, execute defense pattern Delta. Let's show them a few more of our tricks before we have to pull back." The young tactical officer's hands flew over the controls. The station's hidden weapon ports opened, launching a series of small, fast-moving drones. They swarmed around the hegemony ships, causing confusion and disrupting their formation. Meanwhile, Dr. Walsh studied the hegemony communication signals they were intercepting. "Captain, they're confused," he said. "I can read their basic command signals. They expected us to surrender immediately or be destroyed within minutes. This level of resistance wasn't in their plans." Another powerful blast rocked the station. "Shields at 31%, came the report. "Critical systems being affected." Lisa nodded grimly. "Begin evacuation procedures. Make sure the data package gets priority transmission." As the crew moved with practiced efficiency to abandon the station, Lisa took one last look at the tactical display. The hegemony ships were still firing, but with less coordination now. 2 were badly damaged. The drones continued to harass them. "They thought this would be easy," Lisa said to Dr. Walsh as they headed for the escape pods. "They thought we'd just roll over." "This was meant to be a measured warning shot," Walsh agreed. "A display of superiority to make Earth back down." "Well," Lisa said, helping a wounded crew member into a pod, "they've certainly warned us, but I don't think they're going to like our answer." As her escape pod launched into space, Lisa watched through the small viewport as Horizon Station continued to fight back against impossible odds. The data they'd collected would reach Earth. Within hours, the hegemony had fired the first shot. Now it was humanity's turn to respond. President Olivia Grant watched the footage from Horizon Station for the third time. The holograms showed the hegemony ships attacking, the station's unexpected defense, and finally the evacuation. Her face remained calm, but her eyes were hard. "How many casualties?" she asked. General William Hudson, standing at attention nearby, answered immediately. 17 dead, 42 injured. Captain Rodriguez got most of her people out. The emergency council meeting had been going for 3 hours, in the underground war room beneath New Geneva. Earth's top military and political leaders sat around a large circular table. The mood was grim but focused. "The hegemony clearly expected us to crumble at the first sign of force," said Director Ross, who had returned from the Galactic Summit the day before. "Their attack was designed to be a demonstration, not a full military engagement." Dr. Maya Kennedy, a small woman with intense eyes, spoke up. "The data package from Horizon Station confirms what we've suspected. The hegemony's weapons technology is advanced, but not as advanced as they've led the galaxy to believe. Their advantage has always been in numbers and intimidation." President Grant nodded slowly. "And their assessment of our capabilities?" "Drastically underestimated," General Hudson said with a hint of satisfaction. "The shield technology worked better than expected. We hurt their ships. They never anticipated that." The room fell silent as everyone considered the situation. Earth had maintained a peaceful appearance for decades while secretly preparing for this moment. The question now was how to respond. "We have 3 options," President Grant said finally. "First, we can take the diplomatic route, file protests with the Galactic Assembly, and seek allies among other independent worlds." General Hudson frowned. "That will take time we might not have. The hegemony won't stop with Horizon Station." "Second," the president continued, "we can adopt a defensive posture, fortify our colonies, pull back to secure space, and wait to see what they do next." No one looked enthusiastic about this option either. "Or third," she said, her voice becoming quieter, "we demonstrate that we are not to be trifled with. We show them exactly what humanity is capable of." Dr. Kennedy cleared her throat. "Madam President, it might be time to discuss Project Prometheus." A murmur ran around the table. Everyone had heard rumors about the top-secret weapons development program, but few knew the details. Dr. Kennedy activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a complex network of glowing pathways. "These are the hegemony's FTL corridors, the special routes their ships use for faster-than-light travel. They believe these pathways are invisible to other species. They're wrong." The hologram changed to show a small, sleek vessel with an unusual design. "Project Prometheus can not only detect their FTL corridors but can follow them directly to hegemony staging areas and bases. We can strike where they believe they are completely safe." The room was dead silent now. The implications were enormous. "General," Hudson leaned forward, "how many Prometheus vessels do we have?" 6 are operational," Dr. Kennedy replied. 4 more will be ready within the week." President Grant stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city below. She had been elected on promises of peaceful expansion. Now she faced a decision that would change the course of human history. "The hegemony believes we are weak," she said finally. "They expect us to beg for mercy or retreat after this attack. If we do either, they will push harder until they control every human world." She turned back to face the council. Her decision was made. "We will not give them what they expect. We won't just defend. We will strike back in a way that makes it absolutely clear that humanity will not be subjugated." Her voice was calm but carried absolute conviction. "Earth tried the diplomatic approach. We warned them politely. They responded with violence against our people." She looked at General Hudson. "Prepare Operation Firebrand. Dr. Kennedy, I want Project Prometheus ready for deployment in 48 hours." As the meeting ended and the leaders dispersed to carry out their orders, President Grant knew there was no turning back. Humanity had tried peace. Now it would speak with fire. Commander Ryan Ellis stood on the bridge of the EDF Thunderchild, watching the stars streak by as they traveled through the special tunnel in space. It wasn't a normal jump route. It was a hegemony FTL corridor, a path that, according to the aliens, humans couldn't even detect, let alone use. 5 minutes to exit point, Lieutenant Natalie Chen announced from the tactical station. The young officer had graduated top of her class and had an unusual way of thinking about space combat. That's exactly why Ellis had requested her for this mission. "All ships report ready, Commander," said the communications officer. "The fleet is in perfect formation." Ellis nodded. The fleet was just 5 ships, small by hegemony standards. But these weren't normal vessels. They were the first of Earth's Prometheus-class warships, built in secret over the past decade. Chief Engineer Alan Foster approached, tablet in hand. "Final systems check complete. The phase weapons are charged at 100%. Stealth systems operating perfectly." "Thank you, Chief," Ellis said. "Are you ready to make history?" Foster smiled nervously. "I'd rather make sure we all get home alive, sir." Ellis understood the feeling. What they were about to do had never been attempted before. They were about to strike the hegemony outpost in the Arcturus system, a location the aliens believed was completely secure, unreachable by any potential enemy. "Lieutenant Chen, review the attack plan one more time," Ellis ordered. Chen stood up straighter. "We exit the FTL corridor directly behind Arcturus Station. The hegemony has minimal defenses. There because they believe no enemy could reach this location. We deploy the phase weapons to disable their communication arrays first, then target their defense systems. The goal is not to destroy the station, but to demonstrate our ability to strike anywhere in their territory." Ellis nodded. "And remember, minimal casualties. We're sending a message, not starting a massacre." The countdown continued. The bridge crew was tense but focused. These men and women had trained for years for this moment. 30 seconds to exit, Chen reported. Ellis took a deep breath. "All hands to battle stations, activate stealth protocols." The lights dimmed as the ships diverted power to their advanced cloaking technology. Another breakthrough the hegemony didn't know humans possessed. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Exit. The streaking stars suddenly stabilized as the 5 Earth ships burst out of the FTL corridor directly behind the massive hegemony station. The alien structure was shaped like a giant wheel, rotating slowly in space. Several hegemony vessels were docked at its hub. For 3 precious seconds, there was no reaction from the station or the ships. They hadn't detected the human vessels yet. "Execute Phase 1, Ellis ordered. Chen's fingers flew over her control panel. Precision beams of energy lanced out from the Thunderchild and its sister ships, striking the station's communication arrays. The structures crumpled silently. In the vacuum of space, "Communications neutralized," Chen reported. Now alarms were visible on the station, lights flashing as the hegemony forces finally realized they were under attack. The docked ships began to power up, but they were slow. They had never expected to need quick launch protocols here, in what they thought was secure space. "Execute Phase 2, Ellis commanded. The Earth fleet moved in perfect coordination, targeting the station's weapons emplacements and the engines of the docked vessels. Precise shots disabled rather than destroyed. "Sir," the sensor officer called. "Out." 2 hegemony heavy cruisers just emerged from the far side of the station. Ellis had expected this. "Lieutenant Chen, implement your special maneuver." Chen nodded and sent commands to the fleet. The 5 Earth ships suddenly split formation, moving in a pattern that seemed chaotic but was actually carefully planned. The hegemony cruisers fired their main weapons and missed completely, confused by the unpredictable movements. The Earth ships regrouped and fired in unison. Their phase weapons cut through the cruisers' shields like they didn't exist, disabling engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. In less than 5 minutes, it was over. The hegemony station and all its ships were dead in space, disabled but largely intact. No escape pods had launched. There had been no time. "Open a channel to the station," Ellis ordered. When the connection was established, he spoke clearly and calmly. "Hegemony forces, this is Commander Ellis of Earth. Consider this a demonstration of what we can do. We can reach you anywhere. Remember that when your leaders consider their next move against us. As the Earth fleet prepared to jump, back home, Ellis knew the message would be clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated ever again. Ambassador Daniel Wright stood before the representatives of 7 neutral alien species. The meeting room on Waypoint Station was simple but elegant, with large windows showing the swirl of stars and nebulae outside. This forgotten corner of the galaxy had become an important location almost overnight. "The evidence is clear," Wright said, gesturing to the holographic display showing footage of the hegemony attack on Horizon Station. "Earth did not start this conflict. We sought peace, until the very end." The aliens watched in silence. Their reactions were hard to read. Each species had different ways of showing emotion, but Wright could sense their unease. "We understand your hesitation," he continued. "The hegemony has dominated this region of space for centuries. But ask yourselves, do you wish to remain under their shadow forever?" Meanwhile, across human space, Vice Admiral Susan Miller oversaw the rapid deployment of Earth's defense network. On her command ship, she studied the holographic map showing the status of all human colonies and outposts. "How long until the shield grid is operational for the outer colonies?" she asked her staff. 72 hours, Admiral," replied her chief of operations. "The new installations are going in faster than scheduled." Miller nodded with satisfaction. For years, humans had been building their defenses while maintaining a peaceful appearance. Now those preparations were paying off. "The hegemony will hit us harder next time," she said. "They can't afford to look weak after we humiliated them at Arcturus." At Earth Intelligence Headquarters, Consul Zara Phillips studied the latest reports from her network of spies and listening posts. The data was troubling. "The hegemony is mobilizing their main battle fleets," she told her senior staff. "Over 200 capital ships are moving from their core systems. This won't be like the skirmishes we've seen so far." One of her analysts looked up from a data screen. "Ma'am, we're detecting unusual communication patterns between hegemony worlds. Their leadership appears to be divided." Phillips wasn't surprised. "The faction that wanted immediate war with us is now in control. They're embarrassed by our Arcturus strike and want revenge." She brought up a star chart showing the likely movement of the hegemony armada. "They'll gather their forces here at the perimeter nexus before launching a full-scale invasion of human space." Far from Earth, at Waypoint Station, Ambassador Wright was making progress with the neutral species. The Novan representative, a tall being with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, spoke up. "We have suffered the hegemony's protection for generations, but we have never had an ally strong enough to stand with us against them." Wright nodded. "Earth doesn't ask you to fight our battles. We ask only that you refuse to allow hegemony ships to stage from your territories. Stand neutral in truth, not just in name." The Noven's skin rippled with blue light, a sign of agreement. Other representatives began to signal their support as well. As Wright concluded the diplomatic session, a message arrived from Earth Command. He read it quickly, his expression growing serious. "Friends," he said to the alien delegates, "I've just received word that the hegemony has assembled their main battle fleet. They're preparing for a massive assault on human space." The room grew quiet. The Novan representative spoke again. "Then it seems our decision comes not a moment too soon. We will deny the hegemony access to our territories." Back on her command ship, Admiral Miller received updated intelligence from Consul Phillips. The holographic map now showed the massive hegemony fleet gathering. "It's almost twice the size we expected," Miller said quietly. "Her communications," officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from an unknown source. They're using..." "This can't be right. They're using a communication protocol that hasn't been used in over 300 years. Miller frowned. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered and changed. It showed a being unlike any Miller had seen before. Vaguely humanoid, but with translucent skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. "People of Earth," the being said in a melodic voice. "We are the Verdani. We have watched your struggle against the hegemony with great interest. Perhaps it is time we spoke." Miller stared in shock. The Verdani were supposed to be extinct, wiped out by the hegemony centuries ago. The game had just changed completely. Fleet Commander Patricia Lewis could hardly believe what she was seeing. 5 Verdani ships had emerged from what looked like tears in the fabric of space itself. They hovered near Earth's northern defense station, their hulls shimmering with patterns that seemed to move and breathe. "They're actually real," she whispered. The Verdani were considered a myth by most, a species that had opposed the hegemony centuries ago and paid the ultimate price. "Their ships don't match any known design," said her second-in-command. "Our sensors can barely read them." A delegation of 3 Verdani had requested permission to board the station. Lewis had granted it after consulting with Earth Command. Now she waited in the main conference room with a small team of experts, including Kara Mitchell, Earth's leading specialist in alien psychology. The door slid open. The Verdani entered slowly, moving with fluid grace. They were humanoid, but taller than humans, with skin that seemed to shift between translucent and solid. Patterns of light moved beneath their surface, like stars seen through cloud. "We thank you for your welcome," said the lead Verdani. Its voice had a musical quality almost, like multiple voices speaking in harmony. "I am Sereth, speaker for the Remnant." Lewis bowed slightly. "I am Commander Lewis. This is Specialist Mitchell and my security team." The Verdani settled into specially prepared chairs. They seemed to relax, their internal lights pulsing more, slowly. "We have watched from our pocket dimensions," Sereth said. "For centuries we have hidden, rebuilding what was left of our civilization after the hegemony tried to destroy us." "We thought you were extinct," Mitchell said gently. "Nearly. So," Sereth acknowledged. "The hegemony could not find our dimensional pockets, spaces between normal space. We have watched as they conquered world after world, species after species. And now you've decided to reveal yourselves," Lewis said. "Why now? Why to us, the Yao?" Verdani exchanged looks, their lights synchronizing briefly. "Because you fight back," Sereth said simply. "Because you have what we lacked, the ability to strike the hegemony where they believe they are safe." At that moment, Jake Howard was escorted into the room. The former pirate turned intelligence operative had run shipments through hegemony space for years before being recruited by Earth intelligence. He looked at the Verdani with barely concealed amazement. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "Had to verify some information." Lewis nodded. "The Verdani have offered us intelligence about the hegemony fleet. I need you to help us assess its value." Sereth turned to Howard. "We know the locations of the hegemony's main fleet assembly points, and more importantly, we know a weakness in their flagship vessels that they have never corrected." Howard looked skeptical. "I've been aboard hegemony ships. Their technology is advanced beyond anything we have. But not beyond what they had centuries ago when they fought us," Sereth replied. "The hegemony doesn't innovate anymore. They believe they are perfect. That is their greatest flaw." The Verdani activated a small device that projected a detailed schematic of a hegemony dreadnought. It highlighted a section near the central power core. "Their flagships all share this design feature," Sereth explained. "A vulnerability in the shielding around their main reactor. It cannot be detected unless you know exactly what to look for." Howard studied the schematic, his eyes widening. "This matches what I've seen, but no one would think to attack there. It's too deep inside their defensive perimeter." "Not for your Prometheus ships," Sereth said. "Not for vessels that can use their own FTL corridors against them." Kara Mitchell had been quietly observing the Verdani's mannerisms and speech patterns. Now she spoke up. "You're not just offering this information out of kindness," she said. "You want revenge against the hegemony. You've waited centuries for this opportunity." Sereth's internal lights pulsed once, brightly. "Yes, we want to see the hegemony fall. Is that so different from what you want?" Lewis and Mitchell exchanged glances. The alliance made sense, but trusting a species they had just met was risky. "I've confirmed parts of their intelligence through my own sources," Howard said quietly to Lewis. "It checks out so far." Lewis made her decision. "We need to inform Earth Command immediately. If what the Verdani are saying is true, we have a chance to end this war before it truly begins." As the meeting continued, plans began to form for humanity's most daring operation yet. With the Verdani's intelligence and Earth's determination, the hegemony would face a threat unlike any they had encountered in their long history of dominance. Fleet Admiral Benjamin Carter stood on the bridge of the EDF Vanguard, the largest warship humans had ever built. Around him, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The tension in the air was thick but controlled. "All ships, report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer. Carter nodded. Before them on the main screen was a map showing the positions of the entire human fleet, now strengthened by the addition of 12 Verdani vessels. The ships were divided into 3 battle groups, each with a specific target in hegemony space. "Operation Firestorm will commence in 30 minutes, Carter announced. "Send the final confirmation to all commanders." The plan was bold, perhaps even reckless, but it exploited what intelligence had identified as the hegemony's greatest weakness: their strict, hierarchical command structure. Without orders from above, hegemony forces were slow to adapt. Meanwhile, aboard a small stealth ship approaching the hegemony's central communication hub, Major Sophia Harris briefed her special operations team. The 6 men and women wore advanced combat suits that could bend light around them, another human technology the hegemony didn't know about. "Once we're inside," Harris said, pointing to a holographic map of the facility, "we have 20 minutes to reach the main control room and plant the disruptors. These devices won't destroy the hub, but they will scramble all communications for at least 6 hours. A young specialist raised his hand. "What about guards?" "Minimal resistance expected," Harris replied. "The hegemony believes this facility is unreachable." They're wrong. Far away, at Earth's most secret research facility, buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Chief Scientist Eric Johnson made final adjustments to the Nova-class weapons platform. The device looked simple, a silver sphere about the size of a basketball, but it contained technology that had taken decades to perfect. "System check complete," reported his assistant. "All parameters nominal." Johnson nodded. "Upload the targeting data." The Nova weapon was designed to destabilize the artificial stars that powered the hegemony's capital ships. It wouldn't destroy the vessels immediately but would trigger a cascade failure in their power systems, rendering them helpless. As the countdown to Operation Firestorm continued, Admiral Carter received an unexpected communication. The face of a hegemony high counselor appeared on his screen. "Human," the alien said, its reptilian features showing what Carter recognized as contempt. "Your primitive displays of violence have gone too far. The full might of the hegemony now moves against your worlds. Surrender immediately and some of your people may be permitted to live as servants." Carter's expression didn't change. "Counselor, I'm actually glad you called. There's something you should know." At that exact moment, Major Harris and her team breached the hegemony communication hub. Moving swiftly through the corridors, they encountered only token resistance. Most of the alien staff were technicians, not warriors. Within minutes, they reached the main control room. "Disruptors in place," Harris reported over her secure channel. "Activating now." Across hegemony space, communication systems suddenly failed. Command ships could no longer coordinate with their battle groups. The carefully orchestrated invasion plan began to fall apart. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Admiral Carter watched as the first reports came in. "All battle groups, commence attack. I repeat, commence attack." The human fleet, divided into 3 powerful strike forces, suddenly appeared inside hegemony territory, emerging from FTL corridors that the aliens had believed were secure. They struck simultaneously at 3 vital targets: the main fleet assembly yard, the central power distribution hub, and the hegemony high command center. Chief Scientist Johnson activated the Nova-class weapons. On the screen before him, he watched as dozens of tiny probes slipped through space toward the massive hegemony dreadnoughts. Impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The artificial stars powering the hegemony capital ships suddenly flared bright blue, then dimmed as instabilities spread through their cores. Warning alarms blared across the alien vessels as power systems failed and weapons went offline. Throughout the hegemony command structure, confusion reigned. Without central coordination, ship captains waited for orders that never came. Battle. Groups moved in contradictory directions or remained motionless, unsure what to do without explicit instructions. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of dominance, the hegemony faced not just defeat, but utter chaos. Their superior numbers meant nothing when their rigid command system collapsed. As the battle unfolded, Admiral Carter allowed himself a small smile. Earth had warned the galaxy politely. Now humanity was speaking with fire, and the message was being heard across the stars. 6 months after Operation Firestorm, Chancellor Julia Edwards walked through the gardens of the new Galactic Concord headquarters. The building stood on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a star that had no planets, claimed by no species. Its design combined elements from 27 different cultures. Earth's victory had been swift and decisive. The hegemony, once the undisputed power in the galaxy, had collapsed within weeks. Its leadership structure had been unable to adapt to the human attacks. When their main fleets were disabled and their communication networks disrupted, the empire that had stood for 1,000 years simply fell apart. "The renovations are almost complete," said Admiral Ethan Martinez, who walked beside Edwards. The admiral now commanded the new interspecies peacekeeping force, with ships from both former hegemony worlds and independent planets. "It's remarkable how quickly things have changed," Edwards replied, stopping to admire a flowering plant from a world she had never visited. "Not everyone is happy about it," Martinez noted. "Some of the former hegemony leaders are still calling for resistance." Edwards nodded. The transition had not been without challenges. After the hegemony's fall, dozens of species had declared independence. Some had old conflicts with each other that threatened to ignite into new wars. Earth had worked quickly to establish the Galactic Concord, an alliance based on mutual respect and sovereignty. Across the garden, diplomatic envoy Nicole Baker was deep in conversation with representatives from 3 different species. Baker had been working non-stop for months, traveling between worlds to help establish new relations and trade agreements. "The Tyrellians and Vox have agreed to the border treaty," Baker reported when Edwards approached, "and the Cephians want to open a cultural exchange program with Earth." "Excellent work," Edwards said. "What about the Draconians?" The Draconians had been the dominant species in the hegemony. Their adjustment to the new reality had been the most difficult. "They're coming around," Baker said. "Their new council has agreed to attend next week's signing ceremony." Later that day in the main assembly hall, Edwards addressed representatives from across the galaxy. The room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some breathed different atmospheres and sat in special chambers. Others floated or slithered, rather than walked. "The Galactic Concord is not about Earth imposing our will," Edwards said. "It is about building something new together. A galaxy where no single species dominates others, where each civilization can develop according to its own values." There were translation devices everywhere, conveying her words into dozens of languages, simultaneously. "Humanity speaks now not with fire, but with hope," she continued. "We defended ourselves when we had to. Now we extend our hands in friendship." As she spoke, on planets throughout the galaxy, changes were already taking place. Former hegemony worlds were establishing their own governments. Trade routes were being redrawn. Cultural exchanges were beginning. In a corner of the assembly, Hal Sarath of the Verdani watched with interest. The alliance with humans had given the Verdani what they had sought for centuries, justice for what had been done to their people. Now they too were emerging from hiding, sharing their knowledge of dimensional technology with other species. After the speech, Admiral Martinez approached Edwards with news. "The first joint patrol mission was a success," he reported. "Ships from 6 different worlds working together to keep the peace, even had a Draconian captain in the group." Edwards smiled. "Progress comes in small steps sometimes." As the day ended, Edwards stood at a viewing window, looking out at the stars. So much had changed in such a short time. Earth had gone from a relatively unknown world to the architect of a new galactic order. The responsibility was enormous. Envoy Baker joined her at the window. The Concord Charter has 27 signatories now, she said. The Novans just confirmed their participation. Edwards nodded. We warned the galaxy politely first, she said quietly. Then we spoke with fire when we had to. But this, she gestured at the diverse gathering behind them. This is what we were really fighting for all along. As night fell across the artificial sky of the station, representatives of species that had been enemies for centuries sat together, planning a future none of them could have imagined before humanity had shown them another way.